acknowledging the major breaking news last night in international news with Israel attacking Iran's nuclear capabilities and killing a bunch of generals and scientists, key ones. Um, and that's all I really have to say about it. Except, I mean, I don't usually cover international politics in my drawings and writings. I do sometimes, but what do you have anything to say about that?
Well, like you said, that just happened last night, and then so I'm like you. I've just read a little bit about it, but
Mm. Yeah,
I mean, obviously, in this country, I think the handcuffing and manhandling and throwing down to the ground Senator, Alex Badea from
yeah.
California, the Secretary of Homeland Security's press conference, you know, was
That that's international news in its own way, I think, right?
so that's kind of. I mean, it's just It's if anyone has watched, I would just encourage you to just go watch, the video, because I found it really disturbing, um,
Mhm.
and I think it also it contradicts what the administration is putting out there. So I think people should be aware of that.
Yeah.
Um, and I just think it's so disturbing on so many levels. I mean, as the senator himself said later on, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, if they can do this while a camera is running to a senator, what do you think they do to all those people that they're deporting and arresting
Right.
behind closed doors? And, he's got a really good point.
Mhm.
They're
Yeah,
not treated well at all.
yeah.
So, that's a whole nother level that people should be thinking about. I just saw I just saw a post on Blue Sky where the United Park Workers Union, they will post a series of videos of one of their workers showing what they do in the fields, just to show.
Mhm.
And the one that I saw this morning was from an area where I lived in California for a while in Ventura. So I saw these workers firsthand, And I remember driving in my car one day when it was just pouring rain outside, and no one was outside of their cars except for those workers in the fields.
Yeah,
And they were picking all that, all the produce that we all depend on and buy in supermarkets. And I was there during COVID, and during COVID, they were out there when no one else was working.
right.
I don't think Americans really understand, I mean, even if you don't believe that, you know, in immigration or illegal immigration, it doesn't really matter. They're here and they
Right.
do a lot of the work that we depend on. So it has to be taken into account, you know.
And they're human beings, and they're here, and they deserve due process, regardless of, you know, maybe they have a criminal record, but they deserve due process. And I heard from Governor Newsom that they are going into the fields now. The ICE is now going and pulling people out in these fields you're talking about.
I mean, it's crazy. We have to think about the reality. Our businesses have started all this. There's a reason why those workers are in the field. They were cheaper. Do you
Good point.
willing to work? And now we have a whole industry built on it. You
Mhm.
go in there and throw them out. And frankly, that just goes back to what the administration is doing is they are appealing to their, our show
Right.
how they are.
Right.
So, so yeah.
And this is all theater, for Fox News, and all the lying is theater for Fox News so that they can rally the base, around Trump and pass this big, beautiful bill, which is horrible. We just have to keep speaking out about it, trying to counter the right-wing media. Um, one thing I was thinking about also in this Padillo, um, takedown. He was not arrested, but he announced himself. I mean, many of our viewers probably already know all this, but um, it's a tricky thing about these lives. I want to make sure we don't just spit the news back out to people. But one thing, he was there. He didn't intend to be at that news conference. he was in the building for another reason, and then he found out that Kristi Noem was having a news conference, so he went down the hall and they let him in. The security guards let him in. He's one of the two senators of California, and she started talking, and I pulled the quote, and it's so I feel like she's tipped the hand of the MAGA Project 2025 people by saying this. Um, Kristi Noem said, "We are not going away. We are staying here to liberate this city from the socialists and the burdensome leadership that this governor is and that this mayor have placed on this country and what they have tried to insert into the city." I garbled that, but we are staying here to liberate this city from the socialists and the burdensome leadership that this governor and that this mayor have placed on this country and that we have tried to insert into the city. So she's talking about arresting Governor Newsom and the mayor of LA. And that's what they really want to do ultimately.
Yeah, and just the fact that what they were doing to the senator who was an elected representative of
Right.
people, you know?
And that's when he asked the question. She said that and he asked the question. He interrupted her, but that doesn't matter. He's a senator.
Yeah,
Sh-
and as I said, I would encourage everyone watch the video yourself. He
Yeah.
announced, he said who he was, and frankly, it doesn't. The fact that they don't even know what the senator looks like from California.
Yeah.
Do better, people. It's this administration is run. I mean, run by a bunch of thugs. They.
Also, and sorry, yes. Also, he's of Mexican descent. His parents came from Mexico, so he looks like a Mexican, and so I'm sure that entered into it as well. They just saw, even though they may have let him in the room 15 minutes earlier, the instinct of these thugs, these goons, as you said, was to take him down because he's other.
Yeah,
Mm.
I imagine that they would have done the same thing to a white guy that looks like a senator that came in, that they thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it's problematic on so many different levels. Just
Mhm. You keep dropping out. With my feed, I can't. Every now and then I lose a word. I don't know if that's you or the system. I don't know if people can hear you. Anyway,
let's see.
so he's speaking out a lot about it, which is great. Padillo is been on all the talk shows trying to tell his story and what really happened, and many Democratic senators are also reiterating that, trying to get the word out that this don't believe what the Trump media machine is saying because it's all lies. Um, um, this morning I read Heather Cox Richardson, and she said that that what Kristi Noem said is that sort of about taking control of California, getting rid of the elected officials is the first step in authoritarian or of a coup, and it's like an extension of what happened with January 6th. It's just the same thing. They're trying to take down one by one democratically controlled country.
Yeah, and the thing about it is targeting someone, a place like California, that's a liberal, that probably doesn't get a lot of sympathy from other Middle America um,
Mhm,
areas, and I think that's deliberate.
mhm,
Um, and as I saw someone else also comment, this isn't distraction. This is a plan. You know,
mm,
it's not just a distraction from his missteps, from the fact that he's struggling to get that bill through, um, eventually through the Senate. That's not it. Um,
mhm,
it's the fact that this is a plan for them. If you think back to Trump's first administration, they didn't have that. They didn't have a specific plan. He wanted to do certain things, but it was pushed back. Now he comes into this knowing perfectly well he has a base that he regularly throws red meat to.
mhm.
The arrests are definitely red meat for his base. Um, Although I have seen some cracks now where people are saying, "Well, wait a minute, I thought they were just gonna, you know, um, jail and arrest people that are criminals." But now they're seeing people in their community, immigrants that have businesses or coffee shops that they go into or they're friendly with that are getting arrested.
Mhm.
So, I don't know. We'll see how this ends up. But California's a safe bet because, middle America just thinks California's just a big liberal hub. So,
Which is not. I mean, it
really
is
not.
definitely, but you live there. Um, the other thing, also the courts ruled, that this judge came out and ruled, because I'm sorry, Newsom appealed to the courts to get rid of the National Guard that Trump had brought in, illegally. He it's supposed to be the governor that asked for the National Guard. Trump had never asked Newsom if he needed the National Guard. He just brought the National Guard in. And so Newsom did appeal to the courts, and they ruled in favor of Newsom that Trump has to get them out, or they have to return to the control of Governor Newsom, and that Trump's going to appeal. And then apparently, this is what I read this morning. If he loses that appeal, he'll go to the Supreme Court, and that's what's going to happen there. No, is anybody's guess.
I think there was a stay actually this
A
morning.
what? A
There
stay?
was, yeah, I think
Okay.
they did appeal it, and there was a stay. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not a legal expert, so I don't know, you know, how that works, but I do think there
Yeah.
was a day after last night. So
Mhm.
we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
So I don't know, did you this isn't truly important in the scheme of things, although I think it's just one more added thing to this, controlling of society and trying to get more of you know, the authoritarianism feel into this country. But when Trump gave that speech at the military, where was
Right.
that? I forgot. That was a few days back.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember where, but I remember you. I know what you're talking about. What
Yeah.
did he say? Hmm.
Well, one of the things that popped up was he talked about the flag burning that was going on during the riots. The burning of the American flag and the flying of the Mexican flag. And he said he said that he thought that flag burning should be outlawed, and these people should serve time in jail for burning the flag. And I just thought, I don't know if he just ignores facts or he just doesn't know. But I mean, we already had the Supreme Court, ruling on that back in 1989 um,
Right.
during the Texas v. Johnson case, where they ruled, and let's see, this is part of it. It says this was part of the opinion that it was Chief Justice Rehnquist wrote it. The government may not prohibit the expression of an idea simply because society finds the idea itself offensive or disagreeable.
Mm,
And, I looked at the makeup of the court then, and even Justice Scalia, if any of you remember him, he was one of my favorites. When I say favorites, he was,
tongue in cheek, sort of
yes,
sarcastically. You say?
favorites.
Mhm.
I did a lot of cartoons about Justice Scalia.
Mm.
Even he was in the majority on that one. So, I don't know. When Trump throws this out there, as I said, it's just to appeal to his base.
Right.
Because it's an emotional thing.
Right.
Oh my God, how dare you burn the American flag? But, that's the thing about having a country based on the First Amendment. The people are free to say what they want to say, and they shouldn't have to worry that they're going to get tackled to the ground
Mm-hmm.
for speaking out and getting, zip
Yeah.
tied.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was just
And
another
yeah,
thing.
we have the freedom to draw about these things without getting thrown into jail in this country. So, so far. Yeah, he also said that the public was spitting on the troops, which I don't think there's any evidence of that. And if there is, okay,
Well, the thing about it
so
is
what?
this is where the fact checking comes in, and unfortunately, we all have to do this. We all have to do our own fact checking.
Yeah, yeah,
When you read something, don't just sit there and go, "Oh, that sounds horrible." Why don't you? Well, go back and look at the video. Go back and look at the transcripts, and see if that's really true. Because honestly, you know, Trump lies.
mhm,
Big alert to everyone. He says anything he wants to say just to further his agenda. And frankly, many in his administration do the same thing, just as Christina
mhm,
did about this incident with the Senate.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
So, you know,
Yeah.
that's what our responsibilities are.
Um, Governor Newsom gave a great speech, not a speech, a talk to the cameras a couple days ago. Did you watch that?
I
And
I
he
have No, I've got
He
halfway through it.
Yeah, no, he really slammed Trump, and he spoke out in a clear and aggressive way about the lies that Trump has been telling about what's going on in California. Really cutting through. I think that's what the Democrats and people who oppose Trump need to do is not just say, "Well, he's mistaken." That's not that's not good enough. He lied. He lies for a reason, and we got to keep calling him out on it. Newsom said that Trump talked to him on the phone on Friday about bringing the National Guard. He did not. There was no conversation about the National Guard in that phone call. And Newsom's also drawing attention to perhaps Trump may be doing this on purpose, maybe purposely lying or saying things that are untrue. um, he may be kind of losing it, you know? He may not remember. This is what Newsom is saying. He may not remember one phone call to the next, which I kind of believe. I mean, it's hard for me to remember phone calls, and I'm not 79, but I think there's some of that in there as well. Um,
Yeah, that's yeah, I don't know if we should start talking about, mental
yeah,
capabilities, but
right. I'm not a doctor, neither are you.
yeah,
I know.
I I think honestly, it's just Trump doesn't have a problem with that most people would feel is inappropriate. He doesn't have a problem lying, you know,
Yeah.
in order I just don't think so. That's just my you know, having covered him this long in my cartoons, I just don't think he has a problem with lying.
So speaking of your cartoons, what are you working on today? Do you have something up for Substack later today or tomorrow?
I do, and as soon as we get off of here, I gotta go get on it. I'm doing a, I'm doing a piece on the parade, a nice long one. Of course, now I'm reading that it might even be canceled because of
The
weather.
rain? Oh,
Oh, yeah, DC is notorious in the summertime for, having these amazing thunderstorms that just kinda rush through really quickly, and, that's yeah, that's a dangerous thing to deal with people out there, and
oh, okay. You sure it's not an excuse?
yeah, it's not rain, it's like they have, like, lightning and stuff, so, I don't know if it'll end up being relevant right now, but you know what? I'm gonna finish it anyway, so, yeah, I'll have a nice long piece that you can check
Oh,
out.
good. Great.
What about
I like your long pieces. They're really very unique to you, I think. Political long pieces, yeah.
and what are you working on?
Uh, Nothing at the moment. I haven't done a political cartoon lately. I did just a drawing. Sometimes I do just drawings. A live drawing yesterday, for with the camera in my hand of some people, holding up signs of calling no kings, calling for no kings, and I do that and talk about how important it is for us to speak out and to be vocal about this and be supportive of each other because I think people are feeling alone, and I'm beginning to sense that there's less of that feeling that people are really beginning to talk more and more about what's going on and how they're upset about it. So I think tomorrow is going to be really interesting with all the protests around the country and the world. And I'll be in New York live broadcasting
Oh,
that.
great. You're gonna be
Yeah,
in New York for one of those. That'll be a big one, yeah.
yeah.
Alright, well, be
So
careful.
thank you. I think it'll be fine.
Yeah.
I'm a blonde white woman, so I probably am not at risk.
I don't
Um,
know. You better be careful.
when I watched just briefly, when I watched some of the coverage of the California, Los Angeles protests the first night on CNN, there were a lot of people broadcasting. There was almost more media, it seemed to me, a lot more media, the national media, but also individuals covering it. And I thought that was interesting. And there was some guy apparently selling beer, taking advantage of the situation.
Great.
It's
Alcohol runs.
entertainment, and I felt guilty watching CNN, because I know that's what Trump wants everybody to do is to watch this theater, but the correspondents did make a point of how small the gathering was. It's just a few blocks, square blocks, so
Oh, for the protests, you mean? And then
yeah,
yeah, and there's been coverage too about the fact that the National Guard is basically just standing around. You know,
right.
it's Oh, boy. Anyway,
Oh, okay, what time see, how many did we get? We got 945 people, Anne.
good.
That's great.
Alright,
Guys, thank you for joining us.
and
And,
everybody go to your local protest if you are able to, and make sure you watch and do your own research and question things.
good point.
Yep. Okay.
All right. See you later. Look
Bye-bye.
forward to peace. Bye.
Bye-bye.